Hello everyone. Today we're going to discuss a tip that I get asked a lot from my clients and everything, especially those kind of resolving in the HVAC industry or an industry where you sell an expensive piece of equipment. In those industries, we're generally dealing with several $1,000 jobs, and it's not uncommon to have a need for financing there. So today we're going to be talking about how to recognize finance charges in QuickBooks. And how it really works in conjunction with Housecall Pro. Working with these clients and everything, we see a lot of the times where the most common type of financing charge that occurs is when we have a customer or a finance company that the customer signs a contract with, and they sign the contract, the finance company covers collecting all the fees, everything like that. And when the job is done, the finance company pays us. The customer isn't the one paying us. However, in receiving this payment, the finance company is going to go ahead and take out a chunk of the payment for themselves. So we want to recognize that only so much of this payment is going to actually hit our bank account. So it kind of works a lot the same in credit card processing fees for those of y'all familiar with how Housecall Pro works and how their credit card processing fees come out. This works very similar in that respect, but there's a few extra steps that we want to take into consideration to help us with everything. Now, the one thing that I do want to make sure that is understood is this trick is only going to work if this is a finance company paying us, not us paying the finance company. So this is going to be where the customer pays the finance company and then the finance company reimburses us for our services. So please keep that in mind before we get started and do anything. So as we get going and going forward into all of this, the first place where we're really going to start is in your QuickBooks, and we're going to come here to your chart of accounts area. In your chart of accounts area, and I'm using a sample account here, so it's going to be not a normal account, just a sample here. In your chart of accounts area, there's two accounts that we need to have in here. One is kind of optional for you. I like it because it helps us show our income, but it's going to end up showing the customer that there is a finance fee. So if your state doesn't allow you to show finance fees, or if you don't like showing your customer about finance fees, we want to make sure that we do not do this step. But for those of y'all that don't mind showing the finance fee, or it's not a problem with the state, this is your best bet going forward due to the fact that you're going to see that finance fee income. Because when we do an invoice or anything like that through QuickBooks or even through Housecall Pro that gets pushed into QuickBooks, when it comes on to our profit and loss statements and our financial statements, we're going to see the income grouped together if we don't break it out. So I like to create a separate income account that is just for these finance fees. So we're going to come up here and create a new account. And it's going to be a income account. And I generally call this a service fee income because it is a fee, a fee related to service. And we're going to rename this as a finance charge income because that's really what this is. It's a finance charge that you're passing along to the customer, and it's still income that you have to recognize because it is income that is coming into you. So we're going to save this account here. This other account that we're going to add, this account you need no matter what. So even if you're not going to be, or even if you don't want to break out the charges shown to the customer, you're still going to need this account. And the reason for this is to recognize that expense on your profit and loss statement and as a cost of goods sold, because ultimately most of these expenses for these finance charges are generally recognized as cost of goods sold. So that's where I recommend doing them. So again, we're going to create a new account. And again, this is for anyone and everyone. So we're going to create a new account, and this is going to be a cost of goods sold account. It's not a cost of labor. It's really more of a other cost of services based on how QuickBooks does it, because we have to have a detail type. So we have to pick something down here, and we're limited on our choices. So I generally go with other costs of services because it really doesn't fall into any of the other ones. So for this name here, we're going to name it a finance fee COS. So finance fee cost of service. That's what that stands for. We'll go ahead and save that. So now we've got our two accounts set up. The other thing that we need to worry about is breaking it out on the bank statement and everything, or on, not the bank statement, on the financial statements. We're going to need a new product or service. So that new product and service will need to be created in Housecall Pro if you have already linked QuickBooks to Housecall Pro. Now, when we do this creation of a new service in Housecall Pro, it's going to push into QuickBooks Online as a generic account. So we're also going to have to remap that. So we're going to go over that too. So the first thing is to come into your Housecall Pro account, and we're going to go ahead and come up here to your initials. Again, this is kind of a test account that I use for myself to show clients things. So this isn't a fully set up account. We're going to come up here to your initials and account and settings. If it wants to load for us. There we go. And we're going to come to my price list. For my price list, we want to go ahead and add a new item. So we've got all of these items up here. Excuse me. All of these items up here, and I believe I have mine under custom services. Here we go, financial charge right there under custom services. If you don't have it added in yet, we're going to come up here to this add account here and a new price list item. And we're going to come in here and we're going to choose the category. And this is going to be one of these categories over here. So I like the custom services for mine. You may have something else that you like too, like back office expenses, admin expenses, something like that. Custom services is something kind of generic, and a lot of companies have that, which is why I put it there. For the name, we're going to do this finance charge. We're not going to have a price because it's going to be dependent on each and every contract that we do generally, because most companies, the finance charge is going to be based on how large the company is. So the most common thing that I see is it's about a 5 to 10% finance charge. So, for example, if we have a $5,000 invoice, then it's going to be about $250 to $500 in a finance charge. So, we don't want to put a price in here due to the fact that since it changes by each invoice. Otherwise, when we select it, it's going to auto-generate that price. If we want to put it in a description here, always go ahead and put it in a description. If you want to put in a picture, you can. There's no real reason to go ahead and do this because we're not going to be allowing this for online booking, nor are we going to make this taxable unless it needs to be taxable in your state. Please keep in mind that each state is different, so you need to consider your tax laws in your states. From there, we're going to click this save. I'm not going to click it because I've already got it saved, so I'm going to click cancel, but you need to click this save here. When we go to create an invoice, we're going to do our normal thing in Housecall Pro, and we're going to go ahead and do a new job. Come on. There we go. Just as we always do with the jobs, we're going to put in the customer name. For some odd reason, my internet's going slow today. We're going to put in any services or items that we have. So this sample company that I have set up is an HVAC company. So I'm going to put in that we've got a new AC unit going in. And down here, we'll put in the model number, the serial number, anything like that. So I know that that's not a real serial number. We just, again, this is kind of a sample. And we'll say that this AC unit is costing them $4,000. Now, on top of that, we've got labor charges. So we've got a custom job that we're doing for them. And we charge $80 per hour in labor. And it's going to take us 6 hours to do this. Not 61, 6. Thank you. So we're going to have that charge there. We're also going to have an AC tune-up. Oop, not that one. So we'll have this AC tune-up, and this AC tune-up is going to be $150. So all in all, before our financing charges, we're at $4,630 for this invoice. So this customer says, I can't afford that all at once. Do you have any finance options? So from there, you're going to go ahead and contact your finance company, do everything that you need to do there to get them their credit check, get them approved, whatever. And then we're going to go ahead and on this invoice, we're going to go ahead and add a finance charge. Now keep in mind, this is going to show the customer that there's an additional finance charge. So if you don't like showing your customers that there's an additional finance charge, this is not the method that you want to use. We will go over that method in a different video and in a different tips and tricks video or different blog posts. We'll be rolling these out on a semi-regular basis, so you can always check back for those. So down here, we're going to actually bring that finance charge in. This finance company charges us 10%. So we're going to take this $4,630 here, and you can do one of two things. You can either automatically calculate the 10%. So that's fairly simple calculation. We just move the decimal point one place, so it'll be $463. Or for those more complicated transactions or something like that, we can actually take this $4,630 here and put it at the unit price. Now in Housecall Pro, you need to remember this number because as you're typing it in, it's going to change this number. So we need to remember that it's $4,630. So we'll put that in. Now you see now that we're at $9,260 here because we added this in here. However, we don't want this to be 1. We want to change this to 10%. So that's just 0.01. And it knocks us down to the $463. So their total invoice is $5,093. Nice, simple numbers, easy to do, easy to remember in case you have someone in the office that can't handle those complex calculations or in case you have a complex calculation that you can't do. So that's always my recommendation, but it will show up exactly like this on the email to the customer. So generally we would go ahead and go to next and schedule it. I'm not going to schedule it because this isn't a job that is actually going to occur. And we're just going to go ahead and save this. Actually, it will save with the schedule on it. We'll go ahead and save it right here. I get notification as the pro working the job. The customer gets notification that it's scheduled, etc., just like we always work in Housecall Pro. Just as we always do in Housecall Pro, the field tech on the day at the event would go ahead and click the On My Way in the app, click the start, and click the finish. That way we keep up with the drive time, the job time, etc. We can track that to use it in other reports and for payroll and tracking of expenses towards employees and projects. So we'll go ahead and finish this job off. When we finish this job off, technically the person in the field would be doing this. We would go ahead and finish it off after we've done this On My Way and start, and we'll have this finish time here. Now, this is the first time that it goes into QuickBooks. So now this has gone into QuickBooks. The next thing that we need to worry about, and this account won't show it to you due to the fact that this is a sample account and the other one that I'm working with is a sample account. So it doesn't actually feed into QuickBooks. So down here in a normal account connected to QuickBooks, you will see a QuickBooks window. So you'll want to make sure that it's actually been pushed over. And if you ever see this bell icon up here, it could tell you that there's a QuickBooks error. Again, this company isn't actually connected to it, so this QuickBooks error is not valid. From there, we're going to go ahead and we added a new item in Housecall Pro. So since we added this new item in Housecall Pro, it's now been pushed over into QuickBooks, but it's been pushed over into QuickBooks into a generic account. So we need to remap this item in QuickBooks. So we need to go back to our chart of accounts in QuickBooks, or actually back to our QuickBooks, because this will probably be a few days later that we're doing this. So you would end up coming in on the dashboard in your QuickBooks, and we need to go to our products and services in QuickBooks. So when we do that, all we have to do is go to sales, hover over that, and down to products and services. This will show you all of your products and services, and any service that you've ever used in Housecall Pro, even if you typed it in and made it a custom service, will show up here. Those that you do in Housecall Pro come into QuickBooks into a generic account, generally sales of product income or a sales account. So we need to come in here to this account here, and again, since it's not connected to Housecall Pro, we're not going to see this item. So I'm going to show you how we would remap an item, but I'm also going to show you how we set up a new item in QuickBooks. So we're going to come up here, and let's say this design item here. We need to remap it. So we're going to click on this edit here, and we see this income account right here. Well, it's currently mapped to design income, which for this account makes sense, but for you, you want to change that. So we're just going to click on this arrow here, and we're going to change it to retained earnings for some. Well, that's an equity account, so we really don't want to use that one. We're just going to do it to fees billed. One thing that we want to make sure that we do when we do this is you'll see when we change the account that you get this little box right down here that shows up. Also update this account in historical transactions. We're going to click that check mark box. When we click that, any item that has ever been used on that, instead of leaving it in that design income account, it's going to go ahead and move to that fees billed income account for future and for the past, so that when we look at financial statements, the money is in the correct areas. So we're going to go ahead and click this, and we're going to save and close. It's going to update everything for us. Now, since we did this, this is what we would want to do on that finance charge product and service when it came over from Housecall Pro. Since I'm not connected to Housecall Pro, we're going to have to create a new account here, or a new product and service. So generally what I do with these products and services is this is going to be a service. Because it's not an item, it's not a non-inventory, anything like that, so it's a service. So the service is going to be the same exact thing. It's going to be that finance charge. We're not going to have a SKU. If you want to categorize it, if you have categories in here, just like you have in Housecall Pro, go ahead and do it. We don't really have any good categories in this sample account, so I'm not going to actually categorize it. If you want to go ahead and put a description in here, go for it. Same thing in Housecall Pro. However, those things that you put in Housecall Pro will move over here. So if you marked it taxable in Housecall Pro, it's going to come over into QuickBooks Online as taxable. If you put a description here, it's going to come over with the description. If you put in the name's going to come over, sales prices, all of that's going to come over. The only thing that's not going to come over is going to be this income account. It's going to map to a generic account. So this one is wanting to go to that services income account. Now we need to find this finance charge income. There it is right there. And we're going to map this one to the finance charge. You can unmark this, but I really don't recommend doing that because you do sell it to your customers. The only thing to unmark this for is if you're just purchasing this and you're not actually selling this. So really you can't do too much with that. For me, it's not taxable in my state. So it's not an issue for that to be marked. So we want to make sure that that's unmarked. Again, if your state is different, if your county is different, whatever, make sure that you mark that or unmark that. And please look over your sales tax laws for your state as they are rapidly changing. So we have this finance charge income account here. We have the finance charge up here, which is what it would have come in from Housecall Pro. And we didn't put a description in here from Housecall Pro. So we're going to go ahead and save and close this. Now again, since we did not have this account, this Housecall Pro account connected to a QuickBooks, I'm going to have to go ahead and create an invoice. So I'm going to create this invoice real quick, and this would generally be automatically done for you. So we're going to just do the same exact thing that's over here, and we're going to just choose a customer, choose our terms, and we'll put our products and services in here. And unfortunately, this sample account is a landscape company, so we're not going to be putting in the exact same thing, but I'm going to make it look as close as possible as I can. So again, this is our 4,630 right there. And then we're going to have this finance charge here. And again, we're going to want this to be 10%. So we're going to do this 4,630 with that 0.1%. So our total again is $5,093. We don't have anything taxable here, so that's not a problem at all. And again, this is basically what it's going to look like coming in from Housecall Pro if you've never looked at anything. Close that now. Let me close that so you're not looking at that there. And so basically what you do in Housecall Pro here is going to translate over exactly into QuickBooks. The one thing that's going to be the difference here is it's not going to break your services apart from your materials, because QuickBooks doesn't consider that as something to do. Housecall Pro is an add-on app that increases the functionality of QuickBooks, which is the reason why we always recommend looking at add-on apps like this. But this would be your total, and just go with me saying that these are the exact same items here. We would have the $4,000 here on Housecall Pro, and we would have, and that would be for the AC unit. We would also have the $150 here for the AC tune-up. And then these would be our hours right here, 6 hours at $80. Right here is our finance charge for a total of $463. So when we get through all of that stuff, we get our same total up here of $5,093. We're going to go ahead and save this. And go into it like we would in QuickBooks when it came over from Housecall Pro. So in QuickBooks, rather than adding a new invoice like I did, we would just come here to this invoice area. Under this invoice area, and all you have to do is you can either click on it up here, or you can hover over sales and click invoices. For us, we're just going to scroll down here, and we're going to see all of our things going on right here. So right here is that invoice that just came over from Housecall Pro, we're going to say. So it's right here for us, got due today, everything that we should see. In Housecall Pro, we would go ahead and send the invoice here and pay the invoice in Housecall Pro. So we would go ahead and pay it, and since the finance company is paying this, we're going to click Other here. And we're going to say that this was homeowner financing, and we're going to make a payment note that this was financed through XYZ Bank. We're going to go ahead and pay it, and then it's going to go ahead and come over into QuickBooks as paid. So rather than seeing this down here as due today, we would see this as actually being paid. Now again, since this company isn't connected, we have to actually receive payment in here. So in QuickBooks, if we were to receive a payment directly through that, we would click on the invoice here, have the payment date, choose the payment method. This is going to be an other. And QuickBooks doesn't actually have that other in here in this account. So when we're dealing with Housecall Pro, the other will be here. But again, since these are two unconnected accounts and they're sample companies, they're not set up as they normally would be. We would have a reference number for the description or anything like that. QuickBooks is always going to map to that undeposited funds area. So is Housecall Pro. Now in QuickBooks, if you change this, going forward, it's going to want to change it. But Housecall Pro is always going to map to undeposited funds, and that's where it's going to deposit this money to. The reason for that is you need to go back and tell QuickBooks when you're actually heading to the bank, because some of us, we go ahead and deposit it through taking a picture with our phone and deposit it that way. Others of us, we go in and we take a lump batch of deposits for the entire week. So QuickBooks is very smart, but they don't know when you're actually going to the bank. So that's where we're having to come in and tell QuickBooks that we're actually going to the bank to deposit this check. So that's why this undeposited funds exist. So please use undeposited funds. Don't deposit it directly into your bank account. Otherwise, you're going to end up with errors and everything with the undeposited funds and the bank account feed because your deposits may not match up. So we're going to go ahead and save this. And so when we come into QuickBooks now, rather than it being down here as due in 4 days, it's going to be down here as, if it wants to close for me, let me actually reload this page real quick. It's going to come down here and be in this paid not deposited area. So to move it from paid not deposited, we need to come to this plus icon and actually do a bank deposit. When we do this bank deposit here, we're going to choose what bank account we're going into. We're going to choose the date that we're actually doing it. And then we're going to choose any and all invoices that are going to be associated with this deposit. So this deposit is only going to be this invoice for Amy's Bird Sanctuary. So we're only going to select this invoice here. These other invoices down here, we may select multiples if we were doing multiple different accounts or multiple different deposits being deposited at the same time. Then we're going to come down to this add funds to this deposit area. And we're going to receive the money from the actual financial institution. So this sample company has Fidelity, I believe, as a vendor. There it is. Fidelity's financial institution. So we're going to go ahead and say that Fidelity is our financing company. So we're going to receive those funds from Fidelity. We're going to go ahead and receive those funds into that finance charge cost of services account. So finance fee cost of service account. And in this description, we're going to put in that it was financing it's the financing fees for Amy's Bird Sanctuary. Because it's going to be linked to this deposit, and we're going to be able to see that it was for Amy's Bird Sanctuary when we come into this deposit. But to quickly understand everything that's going on, we want to go ahead and put this description here. For the payment method, it really doesn't matter. If you want to say that it was an EFT or cash or check or whatever, you can go ahead and say that. The important part here is going to be this amount area. So this amount area is going to be that finance fee. So that $463. However, what we want to keep in mind here is if we just type in that $463, it's going to increase our bank deposit by $463. And what we want to do is we want to tell QuickBooks that this is the amount of money that we're receiving into the bank. So we're not going to be receiving the full $5,000 into the bank because we've got that $463 that Fidelity is taking from us. So we're going to put a negative sign here. This negative sign is actually going to drop us down to the typical $4,630 that the invoice was actually for. So when we do that, now we're telling QuickBooks that our bank account is only going to see $4,630 of this deposit. So now it's going to match up in our bank feed when it comes across our bank feed, and it's also going to simplify all the transactions that we do on the back end. At the same time, since we're telling QuickBooks that we're increasing the money, or we're sending this money down here to the Fidelity finance fee account, it's going to go ahead and increase this cost of service account by this finance fee amount right here. So without having to do multiple transactions, in one step, we're accepting the money for this transaction, and we're recognizing an increase in our cost of services account for this financing fee. So we're going to go ahead and save and close this, and it's going to go ahead and save that in there. Now when we go ahead and we run to our reports area here, and we go to run a profit and loss for this month, we want to transition this to just show us this month, just to simplify it for everything. We're going to see this finance fee cost of service at $463. Pretty simple. We also see this finance charge income at $463. So it keeps it nice and simple for us. We're not seeing our income broken out by a bunch of different things. So we're not seeing our income lumped together. We're seeing it broken out. So we can see where all of the income went. And we can see that in June, we had $4,000 for fees billed and $150 for installation labor. We can also see that $463 was for that finance charge. And when we come down here for total income, we can see that we had $5,000.93 in total income, which is exactly what that invoice was for. But when we go ahead and look at all this, we're seeing where it went, which is the good thing about breaking out all these income accounts. We can also come down here to this finance fee area and see $463, which is going to counteract this $463 up here and take it out of our income to give us our gross profit of $4,630. Now, obviously, if we were tracking this in a real company, we would also have our cost of the unit in there. We would have our labor costs in there, anything like that. So this 4,630 is highly inflated. However, it's still a very good number to tell you that these are now counteracting each other to allow us to see what our true gross profit is and our total cost of goods sold is. So this is how we go ahead and handle recognizing finance fees that you are collecting directly from the financial institution. So the customer is paying the financial institution, not you, and the financial institution is paying you. If the customer is paying you and you're financing it, or if the customer starts by paying you and then pays the financial institution, we would do this in a different method. The other thing that is new that we're working on right now is also this projects. So the way that I just showed you will not recognize those cost of goods sold directly to a customer. So when we're doing projects, if you're using projects in QuickBooks, this isn't going to go against your project profitability. So there's a different method to that. We're going to go over both of those methods on a different video chat and a different blog post. But if you have any questions or if you have any concerns on how we handle this or either of the other ones, please feel free to reach out to us by email or give us a call. We'll be happy to talk you through it, walk you through it, and see how we can help you there. There'll be contact information that you can reach us by, or you can always just Google us at waterfordbusiness.com. Thank y'all so much for your time today, and I look forward to helping y'all in any ways that I can.